Hello guys, welcome back to the course. In this video, we are going to do public health policy evaluations. And as usual, we are going to display the first 5 rows of our data set. So I'm going to type in data.head and I'm going to hit compile. And now let's add another block of code. So we're going to define the disease name that we are going to evaluate and also the year when the public health policy was implemented. All right. Okay, so we're just going to pick like one random disease. So for this video, I'm going to pick measles. Right. So I'm going to pick this disease. We're going to evaluate these diseases. All right. So I'm going to create a variable called disease name. And it's going to be measles, right? And I'm also going to create another variable down here. It's going to be policy year. So this is the year when the policy was implemented. Okay, so let's say this public health policy was implemented for the first time in 2009. Okay, I'm going to hit compile and let's add another block of code. Now we're going to filter the data for these specific disease, all right? So I'm going to create a variable called disease data. Okay, so we're going to have data, and inside this bracket, we are going to copy and paste this column name because we want to access the value from this column. So I'm just going to put it inside this bracket, and we're going to have equals to disease name, which is measles in this case, right? Because we only want to include data for these diseases, measles, right? Okay, so now I'm going to hit compile and I'm going to add another block of code. So now we're going to split the data into before and after policy years. So basically in this case, we are going to evaluate the effectiveness of these public health policies by comparing the before and after count and rate. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called before a policy. So in this case, it's going to be like before 2009. And now I'm going to assign value to this variable. So I'm going to copy and paste this variable. This is data. And inside this bracket, we are going to have this column's name, year, all right? Because we want to access this column. So just copy and paste that inside this bracket. And we're going to have less than 2009 because we want to check the data before 2009, before this public health policy was implemented. And down here, we are going to create another variable. It's going to be called after policy. So it's going to be the same exact thing, all right? So this is data. And inside this bracket, we're going to have year, right? Because we want to access this column, and we're going to have greater than or equal to 2009 because we want to check the data after the public health policy was implemented. So it's going to be after 2009, right? And now let's hit compile. Okay, so now let's add another block of code. We're going to calculate the disease rates and count for before and after policy, all right? So I'm going to create a variable called before rate. So this is going to be the rate before the public health policy was implemented. So before rate. So I'm going to assign value to this variable. So it's going to be before policy, which is the variable that we created up here, dot group by. So we're going to group it by the year, right? So just copy and paste this column name, and we're going to put it inside this parenthesis. And we're going to have rate, because in this case, we are going to calculate the mean. So just type in mean, all right? And now we're going to do the same for before count, right? So you can just copy and paste this and replace rate with count and replace rate with count. So just copy and paste this column's name and then put it inside this bracket, guys. Okay, so now we're going to do the same for the after rate and after count. So I'm going to copy and paste these two, and we're going to replace before with after. And obviously we're going to replace before policies with after policy. All right, so just copy and paste that. Okay, so I'm going to summarize what we were doing here. So in the first two lines of codes, we calculated the mean for the count and the rate before the public health policy was implemented. Meanwhile, in the last two lines of code, we calculated the mean for rate and count after the public health policy was implemented, so after 2009. Assuming the public health policy was implemented in 2009. Okay, so now let's compile it. Let's add another block of code, and this time we are going to compare the disease rates and count before and after the policy, all right? Okay, so I'm going to create two variables. The first one is going to be rate change. So we're going to subtract the after rate by the before rate. So we're just comparing, right? And we're going to do the same for the count change. So we're going to subtract the after count by the before count, right? So we are just doing evaluations if the count and the rate decrease after the public health policy was implemented. Okay, so I'm going to hit compile, and let's add another block of code. So this time we are going to print these variables, all right? So just type in print before rate and just copy and paste this variable, guys, and then put it here. We're going to do the same thing for before count, after rate, and after count. And we're also going to do the same thing for rate change and count change, all right? Okay, so just replace before rate with before count. And do the same thing for after rate. Do the same thing for after count, right? So just replace this with after count and replace this variable. And we're going to do the same thing for the rate change. And don't forget to replace this variable. And finally, the count change. And again, don't forget to replace the variable, guys. Okay, so we're done with this. And actually, there is one more thing that we need to do. So we're going to create if-else statement. So we're going to check if the rate and count have decreased after the policy, right? That's how we test the effectiveness of the public health policy. Okay, so I'm going to create a conditional statement. So we have if rate change. So just copy and paste this and put it inside this parenthesis. Less than 0 dot all and count change. So just copy and paste this variable, guys, and then put it inside these parentheses. It's less than 0 dot all. Then this is what we are going to print. The public health policy for this is name. So I'm just going to copy and paste this variable. So in this case, we are analyzing this is measles. So it will automatically print the name of the disease, which is measles in this case. So if you change the name of the disease, it's going to automatically change the value of this variable. Okay, so now let's continue the sentence. Implemented and we're going to copy and paste this variable policy year. So it's going to automatically print 2009 because that's the value that we assigned to this variable. And let's continue the sentence. Has effectively decreased both rate and count. However, if that's not the case, so else we're going to print the same methods. So I'm just going to copy and paste this, right? And we're going to modify the sentence a little bit. So we're going to replace has efficiently decreased with did not show consistent decrease. Okay, so these are two conditions that need to be met. So if the rate change is less than 0 and the count change is less than 0, then the public health policy for this particular disease implemented in 2009 has effectively decreased both rate and count. However, if that's not the case, then we're going to print this message. The public health policy for this disease implemented in 2009 did not show consistent decrease in rate and count. Alright, so now let's hit compile, guys. Okay, as you guys can see, this is the output that we got. So we have before rate. So this is before the public health policy was implemented from 2001 all the way to 2008. And the same thing with this. So this is before count, before the public health policy was implemented. So it's from 2001 all the way to 2008. And this is the after rate. So after the public health policy was implemented, 2009 all the way to 2014. The same thing with the after count. This is after the public health policy was implemented. So from 2009 all the way to 2014, right? As you guys can see, this is the conclusions that we got. So the public health policy for measles implemented in 2009 did not show consistent decrease in rate and count. Okay, so it seems that the public health policy was not very effective. Okay, so that's how you do public health policy evaluations, guys. I think that's it. That's all you need to know. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.